It's coming.
Welcome, brothers and sisters. My name is Abini. African Liberation Day is the day that African people, all over the world, come together to analyze the current state of the nation and, together, build strategies and tactics, aimed at implementing the plans required to create a viable future for the African nation. To understand where we are going, why African Liberation Day was established, we must correctly understand where we came from. Africans created the world's oldest calendar, more than 300,000 years ago. It can be found 150 miles west of Maputo, Mozambique. The settled area surrounding the calendar site was the size of Johannesburg and London put together. Egyptians got their knowledge from this civilization. Notice the geometric figures which can be drawn into this ancient architecture. The mathematics in use by our people at this time in history is evident. Ancient paint supplies discovered in Azania, South Africa, were found in the oldest known art production workshop, dating back 100,000 years. Obviously, chemistry, planning, and management were being used by Africans as early as 100,000 BC. In 3150 BC, Menes, who was the legendary first king of Egypt, united Upper and Lower Egypt, and founded both the First Dynasty and the great city of Memphis. Between the years 2580 and 2560 BC, the Great Pyramid of Giza was constructed. It has recently come to light that the Pyramid of Giza is, in fact, an electrical power plant. African people were using electricity in 2500 BC. Ancient Carthage, present-day Tunisia, controlled the Mediterranean sea lanes beginning around the year 800 BC, through the use of its naval power and commercial ability. The Carthaginian navy made the perfect complement to the Carthaginian army, led by great men, such as the military genius Hannibal. Now we've seen a small glimpse of our ancient history. So let's take a look at more recent times. When discussing our most recent history, we could talk about our Nubian pyramids, during the ancient Kushite kingdoms. Present-day Sudan. There were three. The first from 2600 to 1520 BC, the second from 1000 to 300 BC, and the third from 300 BC to 300 AD. Or, we could examine our Gedi culture, which flourished during the 7th century and existed well into the 17th century in the area that is present-day Kenya. Or, perhaps we could marvel at our kingdom of Aksum, which existed from 100 AD to 900 AD, in what is present-day Eritrea and Ethiopia. Aksum is considered one of the four great powers of its time, alongside Persia, Rome, and China. We might want to look at our Sao civilization, which flourished from the 6th century BC, to as late as the 16th century AD. The Sao lived near Lake Chad. The area is now part of Cameroon and Chad. Or, we could look at our kingdom of Zimbabwe. Great Zimbabwe was the heart of a thriving trading empire from the 11th to the 15th centuries. So, looking at our history, it is clear to see that we were a great people. The purpose of African Liberation Day is to point us toward the reconstruction of our nation, which requires pan-Africanism. The total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. Therefore, To rebuild our former glory, we must correctly analyze what happened, and then put a plan into place to achieve our objective, Pan-Africanism. So, what happened? The simple answer is slavery and colonialism. Over 100 African cities were destroyed and over 300 million lives lost.
European powers met at the Berlin Conference to talk about how to divide Africa up into colonies so that they could stop fighting each other, because World War I, World War II, and most of the wars are about dividing the world for the resources, whether it be oil today or in the past it was uranium, coal, gold, other metals that launched the Industrial Revolution, as did slavery, the African slave trade. But these Europeans met for 75 days in a conference to discuss dividing Africa and dividing African people.
The year 2018 represents 60 years of African Liberation Day as a symbol. It represents 50 years since the creation of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. And it represents also 50 years since Kwame Nkrumah, the founder of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, wrote the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare.
Vive la révolution.
A luta continua.
Africa must unite.